It's time to get chiseled with Rob Commodari.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Chiseled. And why do we call it Chiseled? Because we're all a work in progress. I'm your host. I'm Rob Commodari. I'm also the author of the book Better Than You Think and co-author of several others. Today, I'm excited to welcome Marc Allen, an internationally renowned author, speaker, publisher, and musician whose work has inspired millions to live with greater purpose, peace, and possibility. Marc is the co-founder and president of the New World Library, the publishing house behind some of the most influential personal growth books ever written, including The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, which many of you are familiar with. He's also the author of several best-selling books himself, including his most popular, The Millionaire Course, a visionary plan for creating the life of your dreams, which I've read like 5 or 6 times myself. We'll talk about that today. His teachings blend spirituality, creativity, and practicality, showing us that success doesn't have to come through stress and struggle, but through vision, faith, and grace. Marc often sums up his philosophy with one beautiful affirmation, which I absolutely love. And he says, in an easy, relaxed manner, in a healthy, positive way, in its own perfect time, for the highest good of all. It's a mindset that not only shaped his life at work, but also inspired countless others to create success with ease. Marc, it's an honor to have you show today. Thanks for being on Chiseled.
Thank you, Robert. I like your podcast here. Looks good.
I appreciate it. We're going to take it somewhere today because we're all getting chiseled, right?
Yeah, yep. I like that.
So, Marc, I met you, I think it was about 4 years ago. We just reached out to you, me and a couple of my friends. We reached out to you and we asked if we could get some time with you. And we booked like 4 calls each with you. And it was awesome to be able to connect with you that way and learn more about you. How did you get started in the publishing work? Because you've published and you've written. What took you in those directions?
Well, somebody else's nervous breakdown is what launched my career.
You want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Kind of a funny story. I will not use his name, but when I was in my 20s, I'd been a musician. I had a band. I was an actor. I was a theater major in college. And then I was we call ourselves spiritual junkies in Berkeley, California, going around to various things and studying various paths. And I met a woman named Shakti Gawain and was with her for 5 years in my 20s. And when I was 28 or 29 by then, and Shakti was 2 years younger, this one guy hired us. We had no money. We weren't doing anything really. I had a bit of a band together at that time, but he hired us to assist him with a seminar, and it was a 4 or 5 day thing that ended in a New Year's Eve celebration, a 4 or 5 like live-in big deal thing. And he had 25 people from all over the country come. People flew in from Florida and da-da-da-da. And I won't go into details, though the details are hilarious, but he got weirder and weirder and weirder as the day approached. And finally, everyone had assembled. They were all ready. They're ready to go. 25 people gathered. And about 5 minutes before, the 3 of us were in the kitchen. I had just been hired to hand out flyers and help him do things. He was doing the whole seminar. I was just supposed to make copies of things and stuff. And Shakti was hired to cook for it. And we were broke. We needed the money. That's why we did this job. But 5 minutes before in the kitchen, he just said, I can't handle this. And he walked out the back door. And I didn't see him for about a year or something.
So then who ran it? Who ran the show from there? Who ran it?
Well, that's it. Shakti burst into tears, and I was in shock. And she said, "What are we going to do?" And I said, "Well, let's us, lead it and do what we can do." And I mean, the worst case scenario, they can have their money back. One weird thing he did one morning, he was meditating in front of the fireplace with a dish and a bunch of ashes, and he burned all the checks. he'd burned all the checks that had come in saying we shouldn't be attached to material plane. And but it turned out he was getting money for being crazy, SDI or something. If you're crazy but know how to fill out paperwork, you can get money from the state, you know. Plus, I think he had support from his parents. Shakti and I had nothing, no support, nothing. But we went out there and led a 4 or 5 day thing. We just threw in everything we could think of. We had all these sessions, and I kept between sessions then running up to my room and typing up what we had just done because I knew they'd forget 80% immediately. I hear, you know, and I wanted to give them something in print. And so over the 4 or 5 days, it grew to about 60 pages. I made copies of, stapled, and handed out to them. And then, and they enjoyed it. People liked it. In fact, they invited us to do another one in LA, and that launched Shakti in my career as seminar speakers and my career as a writer, because I literally looked up book and published in a dictionary to see, have I published a book? And it turns out a book is any number of pages that has some kind of spine, and publishing means making public. So literally, if you make 2 copies of something and give one to your mother, you've published a book. So
I never thought about it that way. I didn't. Yeah.
So that was it. We had done our first book, and then one thing led to another. I took it to the local store, Shambhala. They took it on consignment, and they said, but you know, to really sell it, you got to have a spine and stuff, and you got to print it, and so I did what one step led to another, and soon I was self-publishing pretty nice books. I did 3 of my own. And then Shakti took the same material. The first little funky book was called Reunion. That was the name of the seminar, Tools for Transformation. And and then Shakti took exactly the same material, but called it Creative Visualization.
Okay.
And that was the 4th book we published. And it just started selling word of mouth. It started selling and selling and selling, and really launched the entire company.
Well, how many people were at that first seminar?
About 25, as I recall.
25.
Yeah.
So now he leaves you hanging, but have you done seminars at that point? Had you done seminars with him before?
No, I had never done anything at all.
So I'm trying to put this I'm trying to picture this, Mark. I'm like, okay, this guy leaves you and Shakti hanging, and you got these people, and you do 4 days of seminar material. Did you just get stuff because you said you were a spiritual junkie? So I'm assuming from the past and all the input and intake that you had, you just had stuff in your head that you just brought to the table.
Yep. We threw in everything we'd studied at all that we could communicate. It was a melting pot of all different kinds of traditions. I'd been at a Zen center. I'd been at a Tibetan Buddhist center. Both of us met at this pretty amazing place. We used a lot of his material. This guy named Ken Kais Jr. had written a book called Handbook to Higher Consciousness. And we took his weekend workshop. That's where I met Shakti. And we used a lot of his stuff. The one thing I learned there that I have used ever since and teach in every book and workshop, I think, is he called the core belief process.
Okay.
I like to call it the underlying belief process. But it's a great way to really, it's just answering 8 questions, and you zero in finally on what that deep belief is that is not serving you or undermining you. And then you find the exact counter statement to keep telling yourself, the right affirmation, you can call it, or counter statement, or you keep reprogramming your mind with that statement. And once you get the right statement, it really can overcome a lot of fear, doubt, anxiety. It's a powerful technique. So we did a long session of that where we had everybody do it.
Well, can I ask you a question then, real quick? You said you had to write down these you had 8 questions about what you believe. So was that a limiting belief that you were writing down because you had the counter statement you said that opened things up for you?
Yeah. The first question is, what is a problem?
Okay.
You pick whatever problem is the most dominant for you at the moment. You pick that one, and you really explore that problem. And then I can whip through the 8 questions really fast. I mean,
I would love you to. I would love that.
you just think, what is the problem? And immediately people know what that is. And then it's just, how are you feeling physically when you're grappling with this problem? And it's just, do you feel tension here, stress? And then what's going on emotionally? And you just name the emotions. You don't have to dig into them at that point. Just name them, name them, name them, name. You like throw open the closet of your fears and name what you feel. And then it's, what am I telling myself? What ongoing we used to say, what tapes are running in your head?
Soundtracks. What soundtracks are you playing?
Yeah,
right?
yeah. The repetitive things, the repetitive what and there we often had people go on, and that's really easy for you. Just be honest, totally honest. That's all you need to do. Okay, this is going through my mind. I'm really worried that this whole thing's going to fall apart. I'm going to be broke, whatever it may be. You go on and on and on and on. And then a really good question. This turns out to be key. What's the worst that could happen? And you examine your fears. What are your worst fears? We even push that deeper off and say, okay, if that happens, what's the worst that could happen? And you really do open that closet of fears and really look, okay, this is what I'm fearing. This is the worst case scenario. And often people have been imagining that worst case scenario, because then you ask, what's the best thing that could happen in this situation? What's your ideal scene? I've now, over the years, done this hundreds of times with hundreds of people.
Okay.
And so many people have the same reaction. I did the first time. It's like when you say, what's the worst thing? Well, blah, 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 and you're off and running. Then you say, what's the best thing? And people go, and you realize, wow, I have been dwelling on that worst thing. I haven't even thought of the best thing that could possibly happen. We even say, what's your ideal scene in this situation? What's the best that could possibly happen? And you dare to dream of the problem completely resolved and wonderful results, and even your ideal scene. Then you say, okay, why isn't that happening? And you try to answer that question in as simple a phrase as possible, the simplest words possible, because we're really getting down into the depths then. Okay, it's not happening because, and whatever comes out are your core beliefs. He called them core. I like to say underlying now, because core sounds like solid and unchangeable, where these beliefs are all they're very changeable.
Okay.
So you nail that belief. You nail that belief. The first one I did that was really effective for me, I did around money. And the belief I finally nailed is, oh, I'm a fool with money. I'm out of control. You put it
Okay.
as simple as possible. I remember the exact words. I'm a fool with money. I'm out of control. That was my belief. That's why I
Okay.
have no money. And then the eighth question is, what statement totally counteracts that, contradicts that? What counter statement can you come up with? And for me, preferably in the form of an affirmation. And I even added to it not that many years ago after doing a thing with Sark, this wonderful artist, where she said, she called them counter statements. And she said, the best thing to do is start your counter statement with the word actually, because your fear is invented by your mind. But actually, the truth is, you are a powerful creative being. So you start your counter statement with actually. So I came up with, okay, the belief was I'm a fool out of control. Actually, is I am sensible and in control of my finances. I am creating total financial success. That was my affirmation. Then I even tacked on in an easy and relaxed manner, healthy and positive way. And its own perfect time for the highest good of
That's
all.
good of all. So that was your
That was my
uh
affirmation that
yeah.
really turned my life around financially.
So, Mark, this is great. I'm so grateful you've even thought about these 8 questions because I like the counter statement. And so, when you like most people, affirmations are "I am, I am, I am,"
Mhm.
and so when you do it, you say "Actually, I
Mm,
am." Is that what I'm
mhm.
hearing?
Yes. Yes. Sark added that. Actually, it makes it even stronger.
I've read a book called Affirmations, and they put the word "why" in front of it because there's a subconscious thing. Like if I say, "Why am I great with money?" And then your
Ah,
mind goes to work to say to what? Why are
oh,
you great with money? Because I am. Yeah, there's reasons. There's reasons. So your mind
right.
starts looking for the answer, and then you start finding those answers.
Right.
It was interesting.
Yeah.
Um, so I took because we'll get into your book because I was writing the affirmations from your book, the Millionaire Course, which again we'll talk about, and I started writing the affirmations in a way that says I am worthy of success. I'm worthy of having money. I'm worthy of great relationships. I don't know how you feel about that. I mean, we can all tweak our affirmations any way we want. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah. Yeah. In fact, everyone should tweak their affirmations and we're all such individuals that words that resonate with one person will not resonate the same way with another. And you just keep playing with it until you find. So for you, worthy, when you find that right affirmation, you feel energy from it.
Yeah.
You know,
And it's not worthy in a sense of entitlement. It's like I'm worthy because so many people deal with like low self worth.
oh, I know. I know. I know. One of the first affirmations we did at that workshop with Ken Kais was just, I am enough. I am enough. That's where we started. I am enough because it overcomes so many beliefs that somehow you don't have what it takes. You need something else. You're missing something. You didn't get the right education. Your parents didn't raise you right, or you're not intelligent enough, or whatever it may be. But just the simple affirmation, I am enough. I am enough, really is powerful for me. It means we have the resources within us. We have everything we need to create success already within.
You got me fired up here, Mark. This is so good.
Good, good, good,
Thank
good.
you. Yeah, thank you. So like earlier you alluded to the fact you were a spiritual junkie because I'm sitting here thinking that's amazing to be able to pull together a seminar for 25 people when you have nothing to go on, right? You do that, and I gotta believe because I'm sitting in a room right now here, Mark. I have over 1,000 books that I've read, and
Wow.
I'm like, when you say we've studied for so many years, studying could be just reading, it could be reading and applying, it could be reading over and over again. You're like getting yourself into that material. And I'm just thinking, it's so powerful to be able to do what you did without any like outline to go on, and you just did it.
Right.
And that because that all that stuff was inside. So when you say you're a spiritual junkie, like were you like exploring different religions, different philosophies before you settled on one, or maybe you haven't settled on one, you work with all of them anyway.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a cultural creative for sure. No, I explored a wide range of things. I took a I remember I took a philosophy course in college, and that was way beyond me. I couldn't grasp the intellectual level. It was also intellectual. Uh, I tried reading one. Was Schopenhauer? Was that his name? I don't even remember. But like Western philosophy did not work for me. I had I had been into Christianity in my youth, and then as a teenager, it didn't work for me either. Meaning it didn't help me with my problems
Okay.
in any way, you know. And so I wondered right after college. Uh, in fact, I went back to college 6 years later just to finish up a degree. And I had to write a paper, and I literally wrote, "I feel my education began the moment I left college." Was the paper I wrote.
Wow. Wow.
And
I mean, I just got chills when you said that. I'll tell you why in a
yeah,
minute, but go ahead.
because it did. I went from Minneapolis to Berkeley, California, and that was a spiritual smorgasbord at the time. And there were all kinds of gurus, teachers that I just saw. I saw Satchidananda speak. I saw uh, a, a bunch of them. And then I went to Maui too. And Maui was the spiritual place. I met people into all these different things and gurus. And there I spent about almost 6 months at a Zen center. That was one of the best things I ever did for my physical, mental, and emotional health. That was very good. But I spent years after trying to translate it to the West, translate it. And then I spent 3.5 years at a Tibetan center. And again, I left feeling it's not been translated well. How do you translate it? And then I started finding some books that really had an impact in my life. Really, just mainly 3 books had a tremendous impact in my life. The first is right on your wall, right behind you. Is that As You Think by James Allen?
No,
No.
but I have that
Oh,
over here. That's the book. That's the book I wrote. Better than you think.
oh, okay. Great. Yeah, oh, there
Yes,
it is. Yeah, better than you. Oh, good, good,
you
good.
have a copy of it.
Oh, yes, I do. I do. It's sitting on my desk. Yes. Yes.
But
Great.
as a man thinketh, I think you were talking
Yeah,
about, right?
somebody handed me a copy of As a Man Thinketh. Just I didn't even know the guy. He just said, "Hey," he said, "this is great bathroom reading. Check this out," because it was so short. And and that book really set me on my path. Really, it opens with this powerful poem. In a way, it has a traditional Buddhist form of certain schools of Buddhism. They say, if you can understand the title of the book, you don't need to read it because it's all in the title.
Uh-huh.
And then it opens with a short poem. If you can understand the poem, you don't need to read it because it's all in the poem. And so, As You Think, or As a Man Thinketh, is the title. Then the opening poem is, mind is the master power that molds and makes, and we are mind, and evermore we take the tool of thought, and shaping what we will, bring forth 1,000 joys, 1,000 ills. We think in secret, and it comes to pass. The world is but our looking glass. That's the opening quote.
Wow, I'm impressed. That's great.
I dealt with that, and I reflected on that, and then there is a second poem that I literally, both poems to this day I will sometimes walk around and just repeat, reflect on the power of those life-changing words. The second poem in there is by a woman named Ella Wheeler Wilcox, written over 100 years ago. And the poem is, you will be what you will to be. Let failure find its false content in that poor word environment, but spirit scorns it and is free. That first verse needs a little updating. The rest is very clear, but what she means is there's a false contentment in failure and blaming environment. Let failure find its false contentment in that poor word environment. It's the people think, it's the thought of, oh, it's the wrong environment right now.
Yeah.
Later on, she uses circumstances as the same thing. Oh, just out there, it's just too difficult out there. Oh, the world has changed. I've known people, it used to be easier. It used to be better. Oh, it's not like it was. Or right now it's just, there's all the excuses for why things aren't working.
And you said the key word, excuses, right? We make excuses.
Right. The excuses
Yeah.
our minds make. So she says, you will be what you will to be. Let failure find its false content in that poor word, environment. But spirit scorns it and is free. It masters time. It conquers space. It cows that boastful trickster chance and bids the tyrant circumstance uncrown and take a servant's place. The human will, that force unseen, the offspring of a deathless soul, can hew its way to any goal, though walls of granite intervene. Be not impatient in delay, but wait as one who understands. When spirit rises and commands, the gods are ready to obey.
Wow.
When we dare go for that dream, the creative forces of the universe will rush in and totally support us as long as we don't undermine that power.
Now, I got a question there. What's the undermining of that power?
Our doubts, fears,
Okay.
Feelings of inadequacy.
Yeah. Okay. Mark, we're going to take a quick break here, but when we get back, you got to tell me or tell us, the audience, the other two books you were talking about, because you said it was 3 books. You mentioned the one, and we come back, we'll talk about the other 2, and then I want to get into the Millionaire Course a little bit if you had time for that.
Sure.
So we'll be right
Chiseled
back.
is presented by the Commodari Group of eXp Realty, led by your host, Rob Commodari. Are you planning to buy or sell? We know the process can feel stressful and frustrating. That's why Rob and his team focus on providing a personal touch and the best service and guidance during your transaction. The Commodari Group are top-tier professionals who deliver spectacular customer service. They provide expert advice on accurately pricing your home and making the entire process smooth and seamless. They simply get it done. Here's the connection to Chiseled. Many of the amazing guests you hear on this podcast are part of Rob's extended referral network. While the Commodari Group serves the Baltimore area, Rob can connect you with superb representatives across North America. Clients rely on this network because Rob actually cares about you and your family, treating your experience as if it was his own. Don't settle for less than the best. If you need a trustworthy and knowledgeable agent locally or across North America, Rob is the guy to call. Contact the Commodari Group of eXp Realty today. Call 410-817-7050 or email Rob directly, rob@talktorob.com.
All right, welcome back. Thank you for that time there, Mark. So yeah, if you could finish up with the other 2 books that you said, the first 3 most impactful books you started with, what were those other 2?
Yeah, 3 books have changed my life. One more comment about As You Think. All 3 books I was thinking over the break, are 3 books I still interact with a lot. I don't sit down there and read them, but I think about them. I reflect them. I know them so well. But the last chapter of As You Think, or As a Man Thinketh, it's a very short little book, little short chapters. The last chapter is just called Serenity. They say, that's the goal, isn't it? A man of wisdom, the woman of wisdom, really has serenity, inner peace. So yesterday I was just reflecting on that, walking around my backyard. Serenity. There's a great line from the Tao I like that I also just take quotes and reflect on them all the time. And I've been reflecting on one from the Tao that says, I am serenely indifferent to fame or gain, loss or pain, at ease, relaxed, in peace. I love that, serenely indifferent. Some people have had a problem with that. So I said, okay, change the word. It's just a translation. I'm serenely unattached. I'm serenely unaffected. I'm serenely unaffected. Is a good one. So, but back to the books. Yes, just really 3 books as you think. Then another book I learned, I mean, the second is kind of esoteric, maybe. It's not everybody's um, choice, I know. But with my theater company, we were playing in Madison, Wisconsin at one point. We toured the country at one point. And I had an afternoon free. And so I was just walking around alone. And there was this little bookshop, and it was all Western magic. And I walked in there, and there was a guy with a long dark hair and a long black beard sitting quietly behind a desk in the corner. And I was the only one in there. It was just a 1,000 books on Western magic. And I looked around completely overwhelmed, and I said, "So what's this about?" He said, "Hey, have a seat." And he gave me an hour crash course in Western magic. And I left with a whole pile of books, most of them really big and complex about Kabbalah and stuff, and that I never could get into at all. But the smallest one on top is a treasure for me. It's called The Art of True Healing by
Okay.
Israel Regardie. The Art of True Healing by Israel Regardie. And it's a little short thing, very short. And it opens with, "Within every man and woman is a force that directs and controls the entire course of our lives. Properly used, it can heal every ailment and affliction we may have. Within every man and woman is a force that directs and controls the entire course of our lives." That seems obvious. I mean, we start as we start as an egg and a sperm cell, and bunch of
Right.
DNA, some force directed and controlled, some force embedded in that DNA, a great mystery. I don't think we'll understand that force behind it.
What do you believe that force to be?
Well, I think it's nameless. It's nameless. It's what is the force that when a star explodes at first, or the Big Bang starting was very simple elements, mostly helium and hydrogen. Some force started putting all of these molecules together and making life more and more and more complex. I don't know what that force is, but I know
Okay.
it's within us. Within every man and woman is a force. I think it's possibly nameless. You can call it God.
That's exactly where I was going. For me,
Yeah, you can
yeah,
call it God. You could also call it physics and chemistry.
yeah.
It is physics and chemistry. Whatever that force is, my son says, well, there's the 4 forces in physics that they talk about. That's what that force is. Okay, whatever it is, within each of us is a force that directs and controls the entire course of our lives. Properly used, it can heal every ailment and affliction we may have. And then as the book goes on, first he has a great meditation called the middle pillar for healing, totally healing your entire body. And then he goes on to say, this is not only about healing, it's also about anything your heart desires. You can attract wealth, you can attract relationships, you can use it in all kinds of things. He even gets into, in deep meditation, he really feels your thought can affect others, can help other people heal, and it's a brilliant book. And the essence of it's a single meditation he calls the middle pillar meditation. And then the middle pillar image comes from the Kabbalah, which is the tree of life. The Kabbalah is the study of the tree of life. And the tree is upside down because the roots are in heaven. The roots of the tree are in heaven. And then they end up with us sort of at the bottom with all of creation. And the Kabbalah is really a map of creation, of first everything happening on these fine spiritual realms. They have different stages, 3 stages there, then into mental realms, then into emotional realms. And once the mental and emotional are aligned in the middle, creation happens. Creation. So that's Kabbalah, the tree of life. So the middle pillar, the 3, it's a little complicated, but I think in Millionaire Course I have it. I know it's in some of my books, the drawings of them, of the 10 stages, but they're in 3 pillars: left and right and center. The left you could call the feminine side, or the yin side, the intuitive side. The right, the masculine side, the yang side, the side of action. Once you bring the left and right together, once you get your intuition working, once you get your male and female within, we all have male and female forces and elements within us. Once we bring them together in the center, that's when creation happens, according to Kabbalah. So I still often do the middle pillar meditation.
And so that was the art of true healing, you said, right?
Yes, the art of true healing.
Okay. Now, what's the third? God, I'm sorry.
I think it healed me physically. I really do. I was in terrible shape after college, and once the first time I did that meditation, I got up out of the chair and I felt 20 pounds lighter, and I felt healed.
Wow.
And that was in my early 20s, and now I'm in my late 70s, and I've been I've had a couple of colds over the year. I've been almost entirely healthy, and I do things because every day I affirm, say, thank you for my health. Thank you for my health. And I imagine the energy flowing down the center of the tree of life. And I imagine.
So Mark, God, I'm sorry. I got a question for you.
Go ahead.
No, you go. You go.
No, I imagine being in perfect health. And I think the power of our imagination is not to be underestimated.
Yeah, I'm going to go off tangent before you get the third book here. Because like you said early on in this conversation, you said the Western philosophy or the religions didn't work for you. So I heard you talk about Buddhism. I think you did you talk about Hinduism at all? Did you
quite a bit.
Okay.
Well,
and then
heard a lot of groups. Yeah.
Because I was going to ask, so it seems like you've experienced that. You experienced the Far Eastern philosophies. What was it on the Western side that didn't gel with you? Like, because my one question is obviously, do you believe in God? Do you believe there is a God? Because you said you could call that thing a force. You call it God. Do you believe in God? And then what was the disconnect, or what didn't do it for you on the Western philosophies?
I definitely feel I still am a Christian very much, and I really do reflect on the essence of Christ's teaching. I just feel most institutions that call themselves Christian have wandered a long way from the essence of Christ's teachings. And so people that come there rarely get some kind of path to enlightenment, personal enlightenment, even though Jesus does go there, did come from there. He said, the kingdom of heaven is within. I've often reflected on that. The kingdom of heaven is within. Okay, so there he's spelling it out for us that we can achieve the kingdom of heaven. We can go there within. But in the essence, I feel so many Christians have forgotten the essence of the teaching of Christ. It would be as if a person said, I'm a Buddhist, but I don't believe in the Four Noble Truths or in meditation or anything.
Right. What is that answer? What is
the essence? Is a new, I remember being taught this in Sunday school, a new law I give unto you, that that law overcame, even the law of the New Testament overcame all the Old Testament. A new law I give unto you, love one another as I have loved you. And that's the essence of Christianity. Any Christian, so-called Christian, who's unloving and violent and is forgetting the essence of his religion.
That's incredible. I thank you for answering that. So what was the third book?
The third book was the answer to a prayer. It was in the late 90s. I walked around my big house on the hill, realized I'd totally achieved my ideal scene that I dreamed of the day I turned 30. And I had a wonderful relationship, a son, a beautiful job with a publishing company. And I wandered around and I started praying to take a quantum leap. I said, I want to expand it. That's another thing from the Bible, that prayer of Jabez. That was such a popular book a while ago.
I got it right over here, Mark. I got it right on my shelf.
You pray to expand your territory. I pray to expand my territory and harm no one in the process. That's always, I always, it's all for the highest good of all, I keep firm. So I prayed to expand. I said, I want to expand financially, and I want more serenity and a real emotional peace, real inner peace emotionally. That's constant. That was my next thing. And I literally started praying for that in the morning for just, I don't even remember, a week or two maybe. And then I went to work one day and my marketing guy came up to me and said, have you heard of a book called The Power of Now? And
that's number 3. That's number 3.
That's number 3. He said he was talking to we had a little distributor in Canada, and he said, it's her best-selling book. And she sold our books and Hay House books, all spiritual kind of books. And to have a book by somebody in Canada that no one had ever heard of in the U.S., outselling every other spiritual book in Canada, I immediately got a hold of that first distributor. And I immediately had the book sent to us, and I knew in 30 seconds, really, or less. When I got that book, there was just such wonderful energy, and I just glanced at it and read a few sentences, and I just said, this is an amazing book. So I got a hold of the publisher. She just said, yeah, well, I've been thinking. She was a Canadian startup, the first book she ever did. And she said, I was thinking of, finding a U.S. publisher. We had a deal in about 10 minutes. And we put out the book, and that was 25 years ago. And about, I think worldwide, it's something like 17 million copies or something.
Wow.
It keeps going and going. And every day I think about it. I repeat all kinds of pieces of it.
And you've told me that, because we've talked three or four times in the past, and I have that book on my shelf too, by the way.
Great. I do think it is the best spiritual book of the 21st century.
Wow, that's interesting. I'm about to go back and read it again. I got to tell you, Mark, it's funny. You talked about the prayer of Jabez. When I first, my first book. Well, you said two things earlier. You said one thing, I didn't really start to get my my education until after I left college. And I feel the same way. I read my first book, my first personal growth and development book, 2 months after I graduated from college. Yep. And then I've read 1,300 books since. I'm like, now I've got my education, right? I believe that. Well, it was funny I think it was 1990. No, I'm sorry. I take it back. It was 2001. And I'd read the first book in 1990 was The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino. And that changed the trajectory of my life, that book. And I remember reading the second part where he talked about like just giving it all away. And he wanted to be a great orator and tell people how to do all these things to achieve that. But it's not about what you have, it's about what you can give away. And like, man, I want to be like that. So I want to be a speaker. I want to, and I didn't have the self-worth at the time. So anyway, at one point in those years, I picked up the Prayer of Jabez. And then I was talking, it was in 2000, it was like early 2001. I was talking to this coach and he goes, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? I said, I want to be a speaker. He goes, well, a lot of people say it, but they don't mean it. And he goes, we'll see. And Mark, it was about, I don't know, 3 months later, I get a call from a principal of a school or a president of a school where I went to high school. And he says, hey, Jerry, this guy, Jerry, he was supposed to speak first, but he double booked and he couldn't do it, but he referred you. And Mark, I have never spoken in front of a crowd before. Never. Right. And I'm like, sure, I'll do it. He calls up on the phone. He goes, would you like to do it? I'm like, sure, I'll do it. How many people are going to be there? He goes, 750 people.
Oh, wow.
So I'm like, yeah, great. I'm in, right? I'm in, but I'm like scared to death because I want to do this. And Mark, the keynote speech that I did that night was an 11-minute speech about the Prayer of Jabez. That's what it was. That's what it was. I took that book and I read it. And I memorized it. The three things and that's what I did. So you said Prayer of Jabez. It brought back a great memory there. But if I can finish that story, and I've told it one other time on this podcast. So we get there the night of the event, right? And I've never spoken to a crowd before. And my wife and I having dinner with the faculty and staff and whatnot. And the president, he asked me, he goes, you want to go over to the auditorium and check out the lighting system, the sound system and all that? I'm like, yeah, sure. And my wife and I go over with the gentleman and we're looking around and he looks at me and he says, so Rob, is this potentially the largest crowd you ever spoken in front of? and I look at my wife and I look him straight in the eye and I said, Barry, this is the only crowd I've ever spoken in front of. and Mark, if you can see his eyes popped out of his head, and I was like, don't worry, I got it. We got this. So that was my first presentation, right?
That's beautiful.
It was great. Yeah. So Mark, this is great. I mean, I feel like I could talk to you for hours. We got a couple more minutes here. So 3 books change your life. You talked about the Power Down, but if in a couple minutes, I mean, I got to tell you, I've read your book, The Millionaire Course. I've read it, like I said, 5 or 6 times, and I've really taken it to heart. Now, like you're of the Eastern philosophy, I'm of the Western philosophy, but I think the two, I mean,
it's the same. It's the perennial philosophy.
Yeah, and so it's a philosophy, and I love it. And like, look, I got this right here. I'll show you for those who aren't who are watching. I got like 20 affirmations that I wrote from your book that are my affirmations. I got them right here. And then, Mark, I created this binder because I did everything in course. It's a picture of me at a desk as an author, and it says, "This is my life. This is my life." Right? And it's okay. It's creating our lives with these affirmations, these dreams, these goals, and see where it takes you. And so, I mean, I highly recommend this book. I don't know if you want to say a few words about it before we go.
Well, I feel I have summed up everything I know in that book. A lot of times people, want to consult with me or whatever, and sometimes I just say, just read Millionaire Course. It's all there. Everything I know is in that book.
Yeah. I mean, it's an awesome book, and I would highly recommend it. And it's not just about making money, because people see the Millionaire Course. It's about becoming a millionaire. And Jim Rohn says years ago, he says, become a millionaire for what it will make of you. And taking this book, going through the course, it's like, what is it making of me? Right. And I believe that. I don't know if that was an intent of yours, but I believe in that.
I had wanted to call it Success with Ease, and still do Success with Ease seminars. I like that. I like success. But I listened to our marketing people, said, if you have millionaire in that title, we'll sell a lot more books. We have sold quite a few. So it doesn't matter to me what the
Yeah.
deal is, because I do talk about money and quite a bit, and
But
I,
that's not the only thing.
right, not at all. I
No.
quote my friend Kent Nurburn that we published a wonderful book called Letters to My Son, has a chapter on money, and the first sentence is, money controls our lives. You can't say it doesn't. Money is central to our lives, but it has no central importance.
Wow.
Yeah, no one
That's
on
profound.
no one on their deathbed has ever said, "Oh, I wished I would have made more money."
Yeah.
No.
Right. I just wish they had more time.
Yes, more time, more
Yeah.
love. For
Yeah. I love what you said that, because you said the essence of Christ's teachings is, to love one another as I've loved you, right?
yes, yes.
That's Mark. Before we wrap up here, I'm going to ask you this question: where, like, going forward, you said you're in your late 70s.
Yep.
Where in your life you feel God's going to chisel you some more?
Well, I have another book called A World That Works for All, how every one of us can do something to make this world a better place. And I use a lot of quotes of Buckminster Fuller, who was amazing. I have quotes here that I'm incorporating in the book, uh, as well as quotes from Thomas Paine's Common Sense, which was genius. But Buckminster Fuller basically, he spoke in the 60s and 70s, and he wandered around. And one thing he said was, we have the resources and technology now to house and feed and heal and educate everyone on the planet. So, well, let's do it. Why aren't we doing it? Let's start doing that as a goal. So that's my, yeah. So I have a big book project always brewing.
When's that one coming out?
Well, I don't know. It'll be a while. It'll be a while. It'd take me a while to write. I've been slowed down a little bit because I have a 17-month-old baby, and
That's great. That is great.
I'm 79 years old.
Oh my gosh.
I start to
Oh,
write, and she comes wandering into my office, pulls open my drawer, she loves my books, but she takes them and just throws them around. She'll look at them and then
uh-huh.
boom, and around the room.
Wow. Wow. So you have a lot of wisdom in that house, right?
Yeah, right.
So, Mark, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, how would they get a hold of you?
They could email Mark at marcallenteachings.com.
Okay. And obviously I know how to get a hold of you through the email. I don't know if that's the email I have, but yeah, that's the one we'll use in the notes. That's great.
Yeah, good. Yeah, sure.
Mark, like I said, I could talk for hours. I'm like, I want to sit here and I just want to ask you question after question after question. And we may have to do this again if you're open to it.
Sure I am. Yeah.
That'd be great. It'd be great. But look, thank you for your time. Thank you for your wisdom. I totally had a blast listening to you here. Learned a lot from you, and I'm looking forward. We're going to do this again. I promise you. I'm going to email you. We're going to do this again, and it's going to be great. So, any final words, Mark, before I let you go?
Oh, I just always encourage people to dare to dream and go for it. And whatever happens, you'll never regret it. Never. I promise you, you'll never regret it. It'll lead to something wonderful.
That's awesome. I think that those are the great words to leave on. And Mark, thank you again for everything. And until next time, everybody, let's go get chiseled.